Hey, folks, and welcome to Typology, the show on which we explore the mystery of the human personality and the great human adventure, all through the lens of the Enneagram. My name is Anthony Skinner, your producer and co-host. Listen, today we got something really special for you, a conversation with pastor and communicator Judah Smith and psychologist Dr. Les Parrott. Judah Smith talks about calling up Dr. Parrott and saying, hey, listen, I want to meet with you before I have any serious issues. They started seeing each other, client, patient, and Judah was getting so much good fruit from the therapy. He said, we should write a book together. So they've written this new book called Bad Thoughts, A Preacher and a Shrink's Guide to Reclaiming Your Mind and Soul. And they talk about the 5 destructive internal dialogues. And we'll get into those: unworthy talk, needy talk, insecure talk, entitled talk, unlovable talk. But we go all over the place. It's a really, really great interview, super fun. It's a really honest, funny, and deeply practical look at how faith and psychology meet in the messy middle of real life, where thoughts, emotions, and spirituality all collide. So you're going to hear about these 5 destructive mindsets that trip us up and how grace rewires the brain and why renewing the mind doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. We talk about guilt and shame. Really, really helpful interview. So let's jump in. Without any further ado, here is the man of the hour, Ian Crum.
Hey, Typology Tribe, we are thrilled to have you back. Today is a really exciting episode. On board with us, we have Dr. Les Parrott, the renowned psychologist and thinker, and Pastor Judah Smith on the show. They're not super well. Les is familiar with the Enneagram. Judah, not so much. He lives a life adjacent to the Enneagram. We may poke in on that, see how things go. Regardless, guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Pumped to be here. Come on.
Yeah, well, so we were just saying, Judah, when we came on, Les is familiar with the Enneagram. Les, tell people about your Enneagram type so they know.
Well, I'm an 8, and I'm a very healthy 8. So
completely integrated.
Nice. I arrived several months ago, and so now I'm here. I got all the boxes checked. I'm an 8 and wrestle with that, and am pretty upfront with my dark side as it relates to that as well. So it's been an incredibly helpful tool.
Great. And now, Judah, you have a team that is familiar with the Enneagram, but you said to me at the beginning something about being a type that doesn't want to be labeled or typed.
Well, I think I have a history of trying to take these incredible tests, none of which compare to the Enneagram. Everybody knows that's the best test around, and that's actually true. At least it's true of our staff and our team. It's been the most helpful. But for whatever reason, this time around, it hasn't been my intent, but I really have not actually sat down to take the test. So I did say to you, Ian, that I am whatever the number is of the person who doesn't want to take a test like that and get boxed in. So I'm not sure what that makes me.
Yeah, well, Les has some ideas. Les, what do you think about Judah's Enneagram type?
The more I think about it, since we first started talking about it before the show, I do think he's a 7. I mean, he's got incredible, unending enthusiasm and a very joyful spirit and an adventurer, an enthusiast. So I think he's probably a 7.
Yeah. So I was saying earlier that because there was some conversation here around 4. Initially, you were thinking 4, and two things struck me when I saw you, Judah, on the screen here. One is, you dress in a way that I would say is iconically 4. But there is a subtype of 7s called the 1-to-1 7 that often looks like, I mean, just in terms of self-presentation, looks like a 4, but they're not, right? They're not. And because your affect is so animated and alive, and your eyes and your smile and your body language feels like that caffeinated 7 energy.
Caffeinated is right, baby.
You got champagne running in the blood. That's what we like to say about 7s.
Come on. I'm down.
Judah, on the negative side, that also means you're scattered, you're impulsive, overextended. Do you identify with any of these words?
No, none of those, just all of them.
Well, so traditionally, like one way to think about every type, Judah, has a core motivation, and it's an approximate description of some of the motivating forces that explain why you habitually and predictably act, think, and feel certain ways, right, over the course of a lifetime. Typically, 7s have low tolerance for negative or dark emotional or psychological spaces.
Boom.
And
when your therapist says boom, like what does that mean?
oh, this is going to be good, Anthony. Yeah. So listen. So the 7 is forever. They're the most future-oriented number on the Enneagram. They have so much trouble staying in the present moment because they're always thinking about the next great adventure, the next great escapade, the next great project, the next new idea, the new scintillating, fascinating new thought that comes up or person that comes up. But it's always in service to avoiding suffering or unpleasant psychological or emotional states in the present moment. As if I get sucked in, if I have those kinds of experiences, I'm going to get stuck and never be able to get out. Does that kind of sound like you?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if for sure is the right thing to say right now, but yes. I literally called an emergency meeting with my executive staff today to share with them the new grand plan that God has given me.
Wait. So there's a new grand plan since 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to be sure.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. Sure, yeah. The new one's really incredible, though.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
The new one.
When I do corporate work, I always tell people the thing you don't want to give an Enneagram 7 is a whiteboard and a marker. Just don't do that.
I actually hate all of you guys. Do you know that? I now hate all of you. This is too personal. This is too intimate. I feel naked and exposed. Is that the name of this podcast? Naked and Exposed.
Yep. That's pretty, actually, it's a good, we were talking about rebranding, Judah. We'll talk to you. So,
I love it. All right,
I want to jump in and talk about bad thoughts. A Preacher and a Shrink's Guide to Reclaiming Your Mind and Soul. I got lots of questions about this. It's something I'm terrifically interested in. It's been thematically, those are the two streams of thought that have dominated my life and the things that I think about. First of all, what the hell brought you two together? And how did this thing come to be?
Well, Les is the man, first of all, and everybody has known his work for a very long time. In our part of the world, Northwest, Seattle, Washington, my dad was a pastor and had Leslie and Leslie come in. And like everybody else, it was dreamy. It was phenomenal. And so I've known of the Parrotts, of course. And when the time came for my wife and I to really want to do some preventative work so we didn't end up like some of our friends, did not know if the Parrotts would be willing. But of course they were, which is ridiculous and amazing. And here's the good news. Therapy's expensive. I've never paid less $1. And that will be the best part of this podcast right there. Not $1.
Never even paid for a meal when we go out. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's a lie, by the way. I pay all the time.
Okay, hold on one second. I just want to say, Judah, I don't think you realize that Les doesn't send the invoice until the work is done. And so, and you have been an incalculable amount of work. And so I think you need to prepare yourself and your accountant for what is about to come.
Oh no. I don't have enough in my savings. You know?
Yeah. You're going to have to borrow, beg and steal to pay off this amazing treatment you've had.
I will tell you this, Ian. It is a remarkable thing because, and you know this as a psychologist, people bring their problems to you. That's what we're in the business, is solving problems. And to have somebody knock on our counseling door and go, "Hey, we don't have problems. but we just want to make sure we don't have problems in the future. That's a pretty rare thing. And so when he and Chelsea came to Leslie and me and said, can we do some work? Because we don't want to, we want to stay on the right track. We want to solve problems before they start. We were like, absolutely. Let me clutch my pearls first, because I've never had this experience, because that is such a rarity. And so that's how we just kind of clicked. And then Judah and I began to do some individual work as well. And so a little bit of coaching more than therapy in some ways. But that's how I think we were, I don't know, Judah, we were well down the path, several years, 5-6 years. And Judah said, could we put some of this in a book together? And that was the beginning of our thinking about this project, Bad Thoughts.
Hey, Les, could you write a book and I'll put my name on it and draw cartoons inside of it, and we'll change the world? I don't know if that's exactly how it came out, but that's what I meant, Ian.
You may have just confirmed your 7 type.
I was about to say, I think he just nailed 7 to the floor. Actually, Judah hasn't even read the manuscript. He just doodled in it.
No, we did an audiobook. Come on.
The one point you read it.
Yeah, but he only read the parts that were assigned to him. He hasn't even put the whole book together.
and when
that's the spice of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we're in the studio reading it, you go, "Oh, this is actually good. I didn't know we said
this is good, bro. This is so good."
Anthony, I'm getting the sense that there's not enough Adderall in the state of Washington to treat Judah. What do you think?
Yes, agreed.
We'll just, Judah, we're going to get you a drip bag. Okay, moving on.
Bring it on.
So I love this idea of, Les, you will know this person. Judah, you will not, because it's way before your time. But one of the people that was an instructor of mine was Vernon Grounds, who was an early defender, champion of twinning or marrying psychology and Christian spirituality or theology together, and trying to break down this wall that had arisen between the two, as if they were mutually incompatible one with the other. And I sense that you're moving that ball even further downfield in this book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's we didn't really set out to go, hey, let's integrate psychology and theology. It's just kind of it's just a part of our being, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but that really is what it is. And I same with you. I have a degree in theology and a PhD in clinical psychology. And I would literally take courses in the morning from theologians and courses from psychologists in the afternoon, literally across the street from each other. And I just really came to believe theology operates in a vacuum if you're not bringing human understanding into it. And that's where the value is. And so it's kind of a mystery to me that every theologian isn't well versed in psychology as well, like you are. So, but that's my perspective.
Yes, I agree 100%. And how do you see it as a pastor, Judah?
Well, definitely growing up, levels of spirituality had kind of these markers, and they were sometimes unsaid and they were kind of baked into the culture. But for instance, one of the markers was like you wouldn't have a need for psychology or therapy if you really had enough faith, and if you really knew God, all of your problems would be fixed. And so it becomes incredibly ironic, because we would go to a dentist and we'd go to even a chiropractor, God forbid, and we would go to, a lawyer, but this idea of a therapist, and perhaps it was because the soul was like the sacred space that only God gets to hold, and the psychologist and the therapist maybe does so much work in the soul. And so I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of looked around the room like, what's going on? Why is everybody huddled over there, and why are we huddled over here, and what's going on here? Because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and there is a profound thought there that is like, man, this is all God's, and he gives skill sets and abilities and talents to particular men and women to understand and do work on the soul. And Les and Leslie are just such great examples of that. And as are you. And so I do think there's a whole generation behind me that's actually super down for therapy. By the way, the sentiment in the culture is like, it's really expensive. So that's going to be a challenge we're going to have to tackle. But it's, I actually think what's cool is the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds are actually like, I think it adds a lot of weight to our theology when we can say that we're at least listening, learning, and growing in the area of philosophy and the study of the brain and the body and how it works.
Yeah. Well, this is something I oftentimes try to express to people, and that is we tend to think of our interior experience as if we were bento boxes, as if we could say, this is my mind, this is my body, this is my soul, this is my social dimension, this is right, et cetera, et cetera. But human beings aren't bento boxes, right? They are soups. We are a soup. These things are all interwoven one inside the other. And when we try to compartmentalize them, we end up, doing a disservice to people, right? Because they are all interconnected. And I won't go down the road of what is the mind and what is the soul. I think it's fair to say that human beings are complicated creatures.
Yeah, and we can't X-ray that, right? We can't X-ray the soul. We can X-ray the brain, but not the mind, and that's who we are. And so, and the word soul is soul and psyche are so related etymologically, and so it only makes sense that it goes together. So and so when Judah and I came together to do this. He certainly has human understanding and I have theological understanding, but, my primary lane is psychology. His is primarily pastoral ministry and theology. It was, it's chocolate and peanut butter. It's just a great combination.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Chocolate and peanut butter. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in the book, you talk specifically about 5 quote unquote bad thoughts, right? Yeah. Maybe afflictive thoughts, right? Talk to me about those and what the premise of the book is around addressing them.
Well, it came out of the work that we were doing. And in fact, I remember when Judah said, hey, you want to write a book together on this stuff? I said, do you want to bare your soul to the whole world? And because this would mean kind of revealing the curtain and getting authentic, getting real about what we've been doing, if that's what you're really serious about. And to kind of find a hook to hang some of that on, we realized so much of our work had to do with crooked thinking, toxic thoughts. And there's, of course, been lots of research and plenty of works done on that front. But we began to just look at the work we were doing together and began to identify these. We eventually surveyed some other people and so forth. But one of those was guilt. The emotion of guilt is a tricky one because it's both theological and psychological. There's theological guilt and psychological guilt. And so the very first chapter is on taking your last guilt trip. And we really mean that. I think that guilt is one of the most selfish emotions that we ever experience. It's like a toothache. You can't think about anybody else's needs because this hurts so much. And so it's the kind of thing that causes you to, and by the way, Scripture, there is therefore what? No condemnation for those of us in Christ Jesus. The Scripture, I asked a friend the other day, literally in Los Angeles, Judah, when we were down there and I was visiting with another friend, and I said, that phrase, let your conscience be your guide? Who said that? Was it the Apostle Paul? Do you know where that's located, And she was literally going, yeah, I think that was in Ephesians, wasn't it? And and I said, well, actually, it was Jiminy Cricket that said, let your conscience be your guide, right? Walt Disney wrote that line. We don't come prepackaged with what to feel guilty about. It's all homegrown. And so anyway, we wanted to kind of expose that and look at why is it that Judah feels guilty about certain things that I don't and vice versa. And let's get real about what God wants when it comes to the emotion and the thinking around guilt and shame.
Yeah. Well, guilt and shame, obviously these are 2 different creatures. And we've all heard that old trope about, shame is more about who I am. I am bad versus guilt, which is I have done something bad, right? Which of those do you find is more toxic?
Judah, I know. I find it's guilt is more toxic because it's the on-ramp to shame. I don't think you get to shame until you pass through guilt. And the problem with that is that so much of our guilt can be false. It's false guilt. And so we're feeling, we conjure this self-condemnation that we don't deserve. And we do that enough, and we literally wear grooves into our brain until we get to the place where we go, I'm not a worthwhile person. And that's toxic. That's as toxic as it gets.
Yeah. So Judah, since this book is largely about your conversations, right, with Les and some of the issues that you were working on, how has shame and guilt figured itself into your life?
Well, profoundly, and I think a lot of the work that I do in I say culture and meaning living in LA and working with artists and athletes and that sort of thing. Guilt is an interesting guide. It's this gory guide that tells you have to make things right. It tells you have to be fair. I think one of the things that we're facing in culture, that I'm facing in my life, is this idea of fairness is now suddenly synonymous with justice, and it's all steeped in this sinking sensation that we're all feel really bad for some of even the privileges and blessings that we have. And though awakening to some of these things that need to happen in society and culture in terms of justice and equity and those things, this idea of this driving guide of guilt is not sustainable. And it ends up, we're doing this in a self-serving sort of way. And so in my own life in ministry, recognizing that, for instance, how oftentimes our ministry was either blessed or expanding and others wasn't, there would be guilt there, whether it's a cousin or a friend or a brother-in-law. And well, why aren't they? And why am I? And I don't deserve this. And it's actually a really, really sick, selfish cycle that kind of has no real permanent kind of conclusion. And that's why I think the book starts with this idea of like, hey, this idea of absorbing and receiving, not earning and achieving. I think one of the reasons I love Dr. Les Parrott and believe him so much is I had never met a man who not only studied theology, but also philosophy and believed in kind of this grand view of God, and that all of this ultimately is gift and all of this ultimately is blessing. Like, I didn't choose my birthday, didn't choose, the time and era in which I would live. And so there is a gratitude, here it comes, the attitude of gratitude that I think is very pervasive in Les's work, that I'm very attracted to, because I think so much of what hurts us in life, such as this sinking sensation of guilt, and I'm talking specifically about a lot of us in the first world and the blessings that we have, we end up feeling guilty, and it drives us into an artificial, I think, form of seeking some of the things that we crave in our culture and time. I just want to go on record to say one of the reasons I signed up with Les and said, let's write a book, is because he really, to me, is able to articulate the grace of God and how all of this life really is gift. And beginning that attitude and that posture began to heal me and help me in ways I don't have time to express here.
Great. So
I have a question for you, Ian. Can I ask, is there a typology that is particularly prone to guilt, the emotion of guilt?
Well, that's a good question. Interestingly, we would say, and I'm going to play with your terminology a little bit, because I have to think more about guilt. Ones could definitely struggle with guilt, the improvers. Yeah. They have that stream of negative self-commentary that's constantly judging, and they're constantly falling short. Now, whether that's guilt or shame, that we're starting to get into the nuance of language. Right. But 2s, 3s, and 4s are in what some people call the shame triad. So 2s, 3s, and 4s could all at some, but I do think that's more, I'm going to use a big word here, ontological, like a sense of being bad, right? Yeah. Like somehow or another being fundamentally flawed. And therefore, each has to project a different false image in order to compensate or to, as a workaround, to win appreciation, love, and relationship, right? Yeah. So I think with guilt, like I could say that, for example, 8s, for example, you being an 8, I would say that 8s are lower on the guilt spectrum.
I can't remember the last time I felt guilty.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like, we could.
I may have just confessed I'm a sociopath. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. And how are you on empathy? Is empathy low for you too, Les? How about a conscience? Do you have a conscience, Les? Just curious.
I did write a book on empathy at one point. So.
There we go. There you go. That's good. All right.
Yeah. But I always used to say I feel guilty about feeling guilty because it keeps you stuck. So, right. And I watch I have one of our sons, he's a 1, and I see him sometimes get stuck in that because he wants to make sure he's doing it right. And like, dude, you're in school right now. You're learning how to do it right. You don't have to be the master of all of it right now, you know? But ones I would think would be more prone to that for sure. But say what you were going to say about 8s.
Well, I think that 8s, again, like 7s, they're very future oriented. They don't spend as much time thinking about the past. So there are 3 types that think a lot about the past: 4s, 5s, and 9s. There's a couple of types that think more in the present moment: 1s, 2s, and 6s. And there are 3 types that think a lot about the future: 3s, 7s, and 8s. Right? Yeah. And so you're future oriented. You don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the past. Right. It's like, blew that, moving on, or right. It's just, I'm moving on. Right.
Yeah.
And for some types, it's stickier, shame and guilt are stickier. And they linger longer, like secondhand smoke, it sort of sticks to them in a way that can be unhelpful. Right. All right, so guilt is 1. Give me another one of these 5.
Leslie says I'm a visitor from the future. I love the future. Like, I want to live in the future, right? I'm like, we had a date night a while back, and we didn't plan. And she said, what do you want to do? And I said, how about if we go to Chinook's and we'll plan our next 5 date nights? She said, that sounds like the worst date night I have ever heard of, right? But for somebody that's future-oriented. And I think Judah's the same way. He loves the future as well. So, but...
I just don't like planning.
Was that a problem for the two of you in therapy, that neither of you wanted to talk about the past or the present? You just wanted to talk about the future?
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about his past, just not mine.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, we all have a relationship to time, right? To the past, the present, and the future.
Wow.
We just tend to favor or camp out in one more than we do the other two. And I think one of the things that the Enneagram teaches is, how do you bring those 3 orientations into balance, so that you're drawing on the wisdom of the past, what's happening in the present moment, and what the future holds, right? If we're too much in one of those, come on, Les, as a psychologist, how many people have come in your door and they're stuck in the past, right? Like they are literally stuck in the past, so that it completely intrudes on the present and is preventing a more preferable future, right?
Yeah.
So...
yeah, I don't know why it came to mind, but there's a James Taylor song called "The Secret of Life," and it's enjoying the secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. To be here and now, that's the key, right? And too often we get crucified between the past and our fear of the future, right? Mm-hmm. The worries of what may or may not happen, but to live right now. And the older I get, the more important that is to me. And it's a challenge to enjoy the passage of time. But that's what it's about.
So I have so I've been involved in 12-step recovery for substance use disorder for a long time. And my sponsor, I can't tell you the name of the group because then I get in trouble. But my sponsor is this guy. He's got 40 years sober, and he is a piece of work, man. I love this guy. He's a true Tennessean. Like, he talks country, and you could not, I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut. You can't imagine 2 different human beings married on this journey of recovery than he and I. But one time I was like freaking out about something that was coming up. It was a speaking date or something. I was just freaking out. And he goes, well, Ian, I love you. And he said, and I'll go anywhere with you except the future. And it was just his way of saying, dude, stop future tripping. Get out of the future. Like, be here now in this present moment, because that's what life is.
That just reminds me of a funny experience. I was doing group therapy with some schizophrenics. This was years ago in a psych ward. And you never know. Schizophrenics can be so creative. And I said, hey, we're going to talk about guilt and feeling bad about things from our past today. And it's just hard to kind of get them all to lean in, you know. And so I said, Teresa, what do you think about that? What do you think about the emotion of guilt? And she thought for a second. She said, you know something? She said, I surf the guilt waves all the time. Oh, my goodness. How poetic is that, right? Surf the guilt waves. So you never know what you're going to get from these.
So Judah, I'm going to lean in on you a second here, because you gave a good answer to my question. You gave me a very 7 answer. You globalized it, but didn't personalize it. You talked about culture and the church and stuff like that. So my question for you is more about, what is your personal experience of guilt or shame like, and how has it impacted your life?
Yeah, great point. And you're right. That's exactly what I did. Obviously, shame is this, you know, the work of shame in Scripture as it pertains to the ministry and life of Jesus, whether it's John 8 and the woman who is surrounded by these men with rocks who, according to the Torah, are going to pulverize her because she slept with someone she's not married to. That circle of men, to me, is a portrait and a picture of how shame has worked in my life. It's like this circle you can't get out of. I love how Les calls our thoughts self-talk, because that's really all they are. It's how you talk to yourself in the quiet or sometimes loud spaces of your mind and heart. And those condemning sentences, the crazy thing about shame is it has some validity. It's like, man, you're a nightmare. You're selfish. You are only thinking about yourself. You're arrogant. You're this. And it's like, man, guilty is charged. And I guess in how shame has worked is it's worked because, and it's been sticky and difficult because it's true. The shame that works in my life is stuff that's real. I'm just as much of a nightmare as the shame tells me I am. So then what do you do with that? And what is going to be the antidote? And the truest thing that I've ever found in the whole wide world is the free forgiveness of Jesus that welcomes me into this idea of, will I be able to lay down my achiever and just be a receiver and admit that I'm at the end of myself and I can't do this, and I'm just as broken and evil and sinister and cynical as the next guy, and I need to be saved and rescued. And that is why at my age, I'm still completely and utterly in love with Jesus. And then in this journey, sitting with Les and seeing the science and the research and his life's work match up with so much of this was exhilarating and energizing. And I must say, since doing it, the activity of shame has diminished in my life, and I feel freer. And of course, the moment I say that, as soon as I get off this podcast, there's going to be some challenge I'm going to have with shame, and it's going to be terrible. But we all know how that works. But nonetheless, I'm very, very grateful. And few projects I've ever believed in more, because this one is honest and it really can help people. And Les wrote a really smart book that's really short also. So in a short amount of time, you can feel smart and better about yourself. So I like that too.
Hey, Judah, I'm gonna call you out and get you to answer Ian's question more directly. And you can push back on this if you want to. But do you remember a time when we were doing some work and we were talking about lust? And I said, let's get real. I said that causes a lot of people that are on pedestals to trip up. And do you remember that experience and what I said? And do you remember how you hung your head?
Yeah. And that was mind-boggling. And it still comes up today, Ian. When he said, do you acknowledge beautiful women? My head dropped immediately. Now, I come from, preachers. If we know anything about preachers, we know preachers have a way of being in strange beds with strange women. And man, I mean, physically, I had no idea, Ian. The shame materialized in my body and my actions. And honestly, it shocked me. I don't even think my wife had recognized and realized it. And the answer, of course, was shame had got me to believe that even acknowledging a beautiful woman was wrong. And so shame in my life had accentuated the rules to actually drive me further into this sense of hopelessness.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Judah, thanks for your vulnerability on that. Because I think that's something that's a kind of a universal experience, at least for many of the men and women that I know. But I also think you're also touching on something that may be an interesting thing to go down, which is oftentimes faith communities create environments that actually thwart mental health. Well, I mean, what you're describing is so in many ways, right now, Les, you just immediately nodded your head and smiled.
Yeah.
What did that bring up for you?
Well, because so often it's not safe. Right. We only grow when we're when we're emotionally safe, when we're in a place where I can just relax. Like I'm sitting in a big leather easy chair and I can lean back and I can say what's on my mind and not to have to edit my thoughts, and I can be real and authentic. That's the only time we're going to, and have acceptance around that. That's the only time we're going to step out of our comfort zone to take a risk of vulnerability like Judah just did and be known and say, this is my dark side. Do you still love me? That's the only place we're going to find true progress. And so the church isn't always good at doing that because we want to go, hey, everything's good, right? Praise the Lord. You're doing it, man, and instead of going, man, I am not doing well here, folks.
I had we have a well-known pastor that found their way into the rooms of recovery that I go to 3 or 4 days a week. I go not because I need it. I'm not hanging out by my eyelids looking for drugs or alcohol. I go because it's fun. And it's only $1. And I learn more stuff from like 19-year-olds to 80-year-olds in one circle of wisdom, right? And so this pastor shows up, and he big church, and he gets a DUI, right? So now the drinking problem is out in the open, and of course, rather than helping him, he is a very conservative denomination. He was immediately fired, right? And I'm like, oh, this is awful, right? Like that is the worst thing you could imagine. Like a church's response would be. Right. Anyway, he said one thing to me. He said, "Why can't the church be more like AA?"
That's right.
And I was like, well, it's a good title for a book. Like, why can't the church be more like AA? Because in those environments, you could share the worst possible stuff about your own interior experience or behaviors. And everyone just says at the end of your share, they go, "Thanks, Bob. Keep coming back." And that's it. Like, I think maybe we should just start closing church with, "Thanks for coming. Keep coming back." It's like, see you next time.
Ian, anyway. Can I just say, like, you're touching on a subject that I think is the future, and so I'm excited about it because I think the future of the church is going to look much more like AA than it is currently. But can I just say, because of my wife does a lot of study and research. She just finished her master's. She's well on her way to get, and we've done a lot of work together on AA work. And my high school drug dealer, who's now one of my best friends and has been for many, many years, he does a lot of work in AA. So he always debriefs my sermons, and they're gauged on whether or not they're good, as close as they got to like the mantras of AA. But can I just say, from my understanding, this idea of I am powerless, I found it. The church is not good at that.
Yeah.
We are not willing to say we're powerless and that we're empty and we're broken and we're hurting. That's not even what we portray on our preaches and our stages and our sermons. We're telling everybody, like, hey, this is how you can be more successful and more incredible and more amazing, when in reality, we are all just one bad decision from ruining everything. And I just want to say, for the record, the future of the church is going to look more like AA. I believe that with all my heart.
Well, it would be great. It would be good, because I always laugh and say, most of the miracles happening in churches happen in the basement after hours, where AA groups are meeting, or NA groups or OA groups. The level of miracle that I see take place is just extraordinary. People who were once deemed helpless or hopeless are are being raised from the dead in those basements, right? And it's you just have to begin to ask, the church has to begin to ask itself, what's going on downstairs that's not going on upstairs?
Yeah.
Because, and I can tell them, I could, but to your point, and I think this gets actually to the whole premise of the book a little bit, I think, which is this notion of powerlessness doesn't mean helpless, right? It just means that you, on your own unaided willpower, have no ability to fix your own life. Like my sponsor, Steve, one time when I first came into the program years ago, he said to me one day, he goes, Ian, I think we are well past any conversation about you fixing you. And I was like, I'd been to graduate school 3 times by that point. And I'm like, where did you get that? Like, it's just, but I think it's true. And I think that's actually the good news of the gospel, right? Like the good news of the gospel really is that all that is required of me is, well, in a way, nothing. However, something. It's an antinomy. There's two seemingly contradictory ideas that are both true at the same time. But what is required of me for true change is giving God consent to do for me that which I cannot do for myself.
Yes.
And if I can give God consent, what are you going to say, Les?
Yeah, and to empower your agency. It doesn't mean relinquishing your agency in your own life, right? I love I'm really hung up on, in a positive way, with Martin Seligman's research on learned helplessness.
Yes.
And we can give up, and we interpret things in personal ways, and it's pervasive. It's always going to be this way, and it's because of me, and it's permanent. It'll never change. And suddenly we're clinically depressed and wondering how we got here because we gave up, right? That's very different than relinquishing, like you said, your willfulness, relinquishing your agency to the Holy Spirit to go, hey, infuse me with your power to do what I can't do. And that's the power of it. I love this conversation, by the way.
In fact, Christianity is so simple, we make it hard. It's like meditation. Yes. It's so simple, we make it hard. The truth of the matter is that if you think about, it's a matter of opening the heart and saying, God, I cannot fix myself, right? Like I am a mystery to myself. Next to you, I am the biggest mystery I got to deal with every day. So my job is to open myself up. What are you saying?
I got to confess to something. So I am so resonating with what you're saying there, Ian. And I've told Judah this before, but I've been so frustrated. I've done such, tremendous work on the psychological front to be, to heighten my self-awareness, to know who I am. And, I've worked hard on all that psychological stuff. And I feel like there's a deficit in my life on the spiritual side, like it's not balanced. And I forget who I was reading, somebody that just kind of spurred me on. And I thought, I need to get a spiritual mentor to speak into my life that will illuminate me spiritually. And I've had a really tough time getting that. I hired a priest that is so wise, and he just took me back to the ancient literature that I wasn't interested in. I've had my own pastor that just wasn't in a place to do that. And I finally called my friend John Ortberg. And by the way, do you know John, Ian?
Yes, I've had John on the show. John and I have worked on some things. We've spoken at the same conferences, done lots of stuff together.
And so John, his last book was on the 12 steps, and he relates it to our spiritual well-being. And so I just called John and I said, hey, I don't need counseling. I don't need psychological insight. I need you to illuminate my spirit. Just ask me questions about my spirit. Don't give me advice. Don't give me insight. Just help me be known. And that is so lacking in what you're talking about. That's why I was smiling when you were saying that, Ian. I was just thinking about, man, it's so valuable.
It's so funny because my last book, which came out this year, was on the 12 steps. called The Fix. And so John and I dropped the same book 2 weeks apart.
That's crazy.
And we're on each other's podcasts championing each other's work, because I come at it from a much more personal perspective, right? Like John would not identify as somebody in 12-step recovery. He just has an objective appreciation for the program. I kind of owe my life to it, right? So it's just two different angles. Both are wonderful.
Wow.
But
I was thinking I have a little group. I call it my Yada group, YADA, Yada. It's the Hebrew word to be known, to know yourself. Yada, yada, yada. Know yourself, know others, be known by others. And so this group of guys that I, have known since college, we meet at least every other week for a couple hours. And we never give advice to each other. We just try to know each other. And even though we know each other really well, and we always have a big question and that kind of thing. And anyway, I said, I just read this book by my buddy John Ortberg, and one of the things he suggests is that we make a list of our regrets. And by the way, I want you to tell John that I'm promoting his book on this podcast that should be
well, I'm waiting for you to start on mine, but continue.
And so I said, let's all make a list of our individual regrets. And no, I'm sorry, it wasn't regrets. It was resentments, people that we resent.
Yeah. Step 4.
Yes. And so I found that so helpful. And so we came back a couple weeks later, and these guys had like 1 or 2 people on their list of folks they resent. I said, are you kidding me? I have an endless list of people I resent. So
that was called not doing a searching and moral fearless inventory. That was a surface moral inventory. Because if you really stop to think about it, the list and resentment is, you talk about a toxic thought, right? Like resentment. I actually knew a woman once that died. I swear to you, if I were the guy signing her death certificate, I would have said, cause of death, resentment. Yeah. Literally. She was so angry and resentful toward an ex-husband that she just one day, just at 50 years old, collapsed with a heart attack in her driveway. And someone said to me later, what do you think? She was kind of young. I said, I think she just died of resentment.
What's the statement? Who said it? Resentment is drinking the poison yourself and expecting the other person to die or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there is a biological factor within it as well that just it's a toxin in our spirit. But yes, we got to be honest about it.
Well, I like you, I wish that people.
And by the way, Jude, I think you were on my list of people I resent. Just later.
Oh, good. So now we can do a step 9. Who's making amends first? Who's going to make amends? That's what I want to know.
I have to. Theologically, I have to. So I will.
So you've got these, you talk about these 5 destructive mindsets, right? So one is guilt, right? You just were talking about that. You have unworthy talk. You've got needy talk, insecure talk, right? Entitled talk, unlovable talk, right? This is, you were talking about this as, the way that we talk to ourselves. But I guess the question I have is, knowing that we can't unpack all of those in the time that we have, like, Jude, I'm going to start with you. How do people change their minds?
Oh, wow. I would have had such a good answer in my 20s or my 30s. Now I'm staring 50 in the face, and I gotta tell you, not easily. And I am, from where I sit in the vista and vantage point I sit from in my life, I think it has a lot to do with the Creator. And I think he expresses himself as a very willing agent who wants to help us think the way he thinks and to see what he sees. I am drawn to, I'm so bad at passages, but I believe it's Matthew 6 where Jesus says, and Eugene Peterson put it in kind of plain language, hey, I'm trying to get you to relax and stop being so preoccupied with what you're getting and start focusing on what I'm giving, what God's giving. And that might sound silly. He later goes on to say, look at the lilies and look at the birds and consider that I take care of them and they don't stress or strain. When it comes to the changing of your mind, I am, and this may be unpopular, but I am persuaded that there is a beautiful, gregarious creator who wants me to see how he sees and thinks how he thinks. And when I find myself willing to go, okay, God, I'm going to wait. The word wait in Hebrew means to whirl about. I'm willing to whirl with God and sit with him and say, God, I don't really know how I'm going to change my mind. Now you can imagine if this guy that I'm speaking right now meets up with Les Parrott and he begins to show me, hey, here are tools to help you do that. And actually, here's research and study. And I found great progress and growth there. And the science seemed to reveal the scripture, and the scripture seemed to reveal the science. So that was a really enjoyable journey for me.
Yeah. Les, how about you, man? By the way, did you come out of a CBT school, like a cognitive behavioral therapy school, or what was your sort of principal modality?
CBT, I'm very comfortable there. I would say I'm very eclectic. I'm not psychodynamic, but I appreciate it. I'm all for what works in that moment. And so I see the value of so many things. When I was in graduate school, we were grounded in Rogerian stuff. Is this interesting to your listeners?
Well, so listeners, every time you hear me doing positive self-regard, then positive regard, you know that I am speaking in Rogerian terms.
Yes. And so Carl Rogers, who was the founder of that, who just had this thing, unconditional positive regard for people, that people could find their own way given the right circumstances of love, basically. And so we were grounded in that, which I really appreciate. The more I do therapeutic work with people, the more it's something you can always fall back on. You can't make a mistake with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. When
you're dealing with people's lives, you cannot make a mistake by offering that unconditional positive regard, generally speaking. So with CBT, I find great value in that as well. But to answer your question, I think it starts with awareness. Awareness is curative, as we psychologists like to say. And so you can't change any negative thinking or toxic thinking until you are naming it. And so that's the first thing. And then I think, we first wanted to call this book, instead of Bad Thoughts, the original title that we submitted was Don't Believe Everything You Think. And you just have to recognize that some of your thinking is going to be irrational. And you have to reframe that. And the critic in your head is loud, and you got to quiet that loud voice down and stop arguing with it, and get rational. Your inner narrator needs an editor.
Did y'all do any work in your therapy together separating identity from internal dialogue?
Yeah, because say more about that, Anthony.
Well, Ian and I talk about this a lot, about feelings and thoughts being the weather system, but you're the mountain, right?
Yes.
And as opposed to attaching yourself to every thought or feeling that passes through, sometimes you just have to let one pass through. And not overly over-identify with it or identify with it at all, because the scripture says that we receive thoughts from all kinds of places, the enemy being one of them. That's why we have the helmet of salvation and the shield of faith, right? So we have darts fired at us all the time. So sometimes I believe the scripture tells us that we have our own thoughts, but we also are influenced by thoughts from elsewhere, right? So if we over-identify with everything, well, we can spiral down quickly.
Yeah, to use your analogy there, I'm working with somebody right now, Leslie and I are, and I'm just trying to help her understand that her feelings rather are a thermometer. It's the reading of the, it's not the thermostat, right? You can control those feelings. And so to kind of get more into your question, Ian, how do you change that? You have to recognize that your feelings are the result of your thinking. You're not going to reverse that, right? And that's why two people can fail an exam and have a completely different emotional experience afterwards. And one is self-punitive and the other is motivated. Man, am I going to get it right next time, or whatever the thing is. It's because of what they're saying to themselves. It's their self-talk. And so using that as a thermostat rather than the thermometer is how you change that thought, to reframe that in so many ways. I mean, that's very simplistic, but does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about, and by the way, we talk about psychology stuff on the show all the time. So is this idea of metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking.
Right.
So, and this is where it's so interesting. The Eastern Orthodox, 1700 years ago, right, talked about logosmoi, right, which is just intrusive thoughts that run through the head. They don't mean anything. They're just like passing through, right? And if you become scrupulous and overattached and, like focusing, they're like, let it go. Just, of course I had that thought. Let it go.
Yeah.
And don't become over-identified with it or nail your attention to it, because we have an expression working with people with the Enneagram. We talk about where attention goes, energy flows. Right? So if your attention goes toward that, all of your energy is moving toward that object or that thought or that feeling. And it's like, well, as my sponsor oftentimes says to me, Ian, the problem isn't that you had that thought. The problem is you believe it.
Yeah.
And
right.
I'm like, you got me.
I had somebody say to me recently, I'm tired of my thoughts being clickbait. Isn't that good?
Oh.
Tired of my thoughts being clickbait. And
yes,
really good. Like maybe we should retitle the book, Judah. Because it is so true.
So Judah, if I were your closest friend and I knew you before you spent time with Les and working on these difficult patterns of thinking and feeling and behaving, in what ways are you observably different now as a result of doing the work that's described in the book, Bad Thoughts?
And just keep in mind, Judah, that your answer reflects on me. So make it really positive. Yeah.
Make it really positive.
Well, Ian, thanks for asking the question. No apparent change, really. None whatsoever. In fact, some have argued I was much better before. But God is gracious.
Well, it makes sense now why you're not paying for it.
That's right.
You're still getting a bill, dude.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, no dodging that bullet. I think I'm more patient. I think I'm a better listener. I think I'm a better learner. To jump to big conclusions, because I can talk in circles as well, because I'm such a feeler and I'm drawn to the mystical, magical ways of the world. I feel different, Now I'm getting into the stuff that really resonates with me. My soul feels more buoyant. I feel more in touch with my weakness. I feel more honest about my pain. I feel more in love with this beautiful God and wonderful Savior who uses science in such a beautiful way. I think in my line of work, you talked about focus, and that meant so much to me because I think what Les helped me in my line of work, this obsession with psychology and self-help was the enemy of theology, because we were taught that if you focus on yourself and focus on your brain and your thoughts, then it's going to be all about that and it's not going to be about Jesus. But I actually see the beauty and the majesty of Jesus in the study and the research and the work, and sitting there and listening to Les talk to me was very spiritual. And it was a very, my thoughts were preoccupied with the wonder of what God has built here on earth and the different skill sets he's given people. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel better for it. I understand my wife better. She is not like me. And I think our learning together it has really bonded us. Leslie and Leslie have undoubtedly brought our marriage closer together. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. I don't know, Ian, if it's helped our sex life. That's something I'll have to consider. But thanks for asking. Wait, Judah, Ian did not ask that question.
Oh, but I was thinking it.
Yeah. I am from Hollywood,
I was
guys.
like,
come on.
Well, listen, now I'm going to call Les immediately after this call to sign up. If it's improving your sex life, then I'm signing up. Guys, what a treat to have you on, to be talking about your new book, Bad Thoughts, A Preacher and a Shrink's Guide to Reclaiming Your Mind and Soul, on Zondervan, also my publisher, by the way. And delighted to have you on, and I sure hope we get to do it again, though I suspect it will be hard to nail Judah down.
I'm in the future.
It'll have to be spontaneous for sure.
But not committed to it.
Right.
Keep all the options open, baby. Just keep all those escape hatches and options open. That's what you do.
Ian, as an 8, I'll have no problem calling him out on it. So
that's good.
That's right. That's a fact.
That's good. So Judah, this is one of the things when I'm coaching sevens is I make them do a daily 10-minute meditation practice.
Wow.
In silence, staying still and present. And how does that strike you as an assignment?
Well, can I do it in my bathtub? Because I love my bathtub.
No, sorry, dude. You got to do it on a
come
boring
on, Ian. These rules are overwhelming.
Oh, such a surprise. Such a surprise, yes. And
by the way, Judah, because you're not going to do it, I hope you feel guilty about it and eventually shame yourself as a result of not doing this.
Yes.
No, I'm going to do it.
I
love meditation work.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but you have to do it not because it's fascinating, because here's the thing. We were just talking, we were just actually thinking of, because we've been actually talking about something quite deep, which is how do people change, right? And like my experience, and just this is my perspective. So you use the term self-help, and I understand why, because it's a genre and a category, right? But I think it's actually kind of a silly term. Because if yourself could have helped yourself, wouldn't yourself have already done it?
Well
like that's
said.
what I'm always like.
Yeah,
I don't know. Self-help doesn't sound, But I do think we were in the fix. I tell this story about my son Aiden, the one who went to Brown. One time when Aiden was really little, I can't remember how old he was, but he was at an age when I was still giving him baths, and he took an epic poo in the bathtub while I had stepped out to get a towel. Okay. Now, little kids can do this, right? I think at least mine did. Anyhow, I come back and it's like the Exxon Valdez oil spill in the tub, right? Like it is bad. And he has, in my absence, begun to pick up these little buoys. And then he realizes my hands are dirty, so he wipes them on his hair. And then he wipes them on his chest. And then he's wiping them on the walls to go, right? So what Aiden is trying to do, essentially, is fix himself. But in the process of fixing himself, he has made more of a mess, right? And what he needed was, in 12-step parlance, a higher power, God, Jesus, you fill in the blank. I'm not going to be overly scrupulous about that. He needed someone outside of him to do for him what he couldn't do for himself. And that's what, to me, ultimately, yes, we participate in the change in our own transformation. But the lion's share of the work is, for me personally, has just come down to that powerlessness, which doesn't lead to a negation of agency, but it leads to surrender. And in that surrendered posture, God has an open lane to bring about changes, albeit slower than I would like most of the time.
Yeah.
But for me, that's kind of like what the whole gospel is for me. The gospel as relates to change.
Wow, that's incredible. Ian, as
Couldn't
we wrap
agree more.
up,
Beautiful.
You gave him an assignment. I want my assignment as an 8. Give me a prescription.
Well, I don't think it's actually, well, first of all, you and I are closer in age to one another.
Yeah.
And so a lot of stuff in you has already softened around the edges. And because you've done a lot of work around self-awareness and self-reflection, which is not the 8s, like for 4s, that's easy work, right? Like that, we're overly self-reflective. 8s typically not. They tend to be more externally focused than internally focused. So it's great that you've done that work. That said, so much of the work for 8s is around not confusing vulnerability with weakness and not receiving the weakness of others, receiving the vulnerability of others and interpreting it as their weakness, which I think as a psychologist and other things, you've moved well past that.
Well, and I just know that vulnerability is the only road to travel when it comes to being loved. And so, and I want to be loved. So by the people that are in my life. So I'm with you on that. What an honor to get to do this with you, man. This is like, I can't believe that an hour has flown by.
I know. I was embarrassed that I've held you this long, actually thinking, oh my gosh, we've got an hour.
10 minutes late to another appointment, but I'm going, I'm texting him going, no, I'm going to run late. This is fun.
Blame me. Just blame me. I don't care. I don't know these people. It's all right. Hey, everybody, go get a copy of this amazing book, Bad Thoughts, A Preacher and a Shrink's Guide to Reclaiming Your Mind and Soul. Les Parrott, thank you. Judah Smith, thank you. I hope our paths cross sooner than later.
Same.
And to those of you listening, may you have love, may you have joy, may you have peace, may you have healing, and may you have rest. And may the same be true for all those whom you love. Until next time.